is so sort of chaotic, it's now giving us a chance to sort of take a deep breath and just enjoy, our family. And you realize how much your other family means to you because you're missing them. My kids, beyond their friends, they haven't seen their cousins, and when can we see our cousins, and that whole thing. So I think the sort of family element, again, I'm just trying to put a positive spin on it. It may be a good thing that people are rediscovering. I bet you once this is over, a lot of people will sort of take a look at themselves in the mirror and say, is my, job, we're out here on Long Island, obviously commuting into the city every day where I'm leaving the house at 6 a.m. and not getting back till late at night. Is that worth it anymore? I really enjoyed, spending more time with my kids and things like that. So, I think that could be sort of a positive to this whole thing. Yeah, it definitely stinks. I mean, don't get me wrong. My kids are like, can I just hang out with my friends? I'm sick of you, Dad, by this point. But, but I think, there is a positive element to it where there's a lot more sort of, family involvement with our lives now.
Yeah, no, those are definitely the positives. There's no doubt about it. I cherish every, second, minute I'm having with my daughter and my son, and my wife too, and we're all just kind of doing our own thing, and together, and kind of spacing this out. I think that's the big thing, though, Katie. More than anything, is it's like this is the second week. This has been the first week of the, major, actually sitting down and having a structure. What time we're going to start homework and school and the lessons and the plans and get that done. And, and then, yes, spending time with each other. But also, we also need, like, we also need a little, there's got to be a place in the house to run to as well, too, just to kind of hunker down and.
Oh, yeah. I've actually, I not only live in Massapequa, I work in Massapequa. I've been to the office twice this week. I was like, oh, honey, I got to go to the office. I mean, nobody else was there. So I was social distancing everyone. Don't worry, there was nobody there. But me. But, it was like, yeah, all right, just my little sanctuary, I just got to run to the office quick. But, yeah, I mean, and you could tell everybody sort of now starting, like, I need some interaction. My friends set up like a Zoom thing on Friday, have a Zoom happy hour, for us to sort of, me and all my buddies to sort of talk. I didn't even know what Zoom was. So I guess we're doing that on Friday. So yeah, I mean, you do need that sort of social interaction at some point. Again, like you said, it's only been 2 weeks, so you can deal with it. But if this goes on for 2 months, there may be some.
This conversation might be a lot different.
I divorced my wife. I had my kids tied up in the basement.
We had to eat the children.
That's right. So yeah, who knows where we'll be? Which again is the difficulty that our sort of government officials are having at this point. The conversation. You've heard Cuomo say it. You've heard Trump say it. It's at what point do you say, look, is the cure is social distancing becoming more of a problem than the actual virus, down the road? And again, that's a difficult decision, where you're putting, that aspect of it, economy, mental health, and all that ahead of, your health from this virus. So it's a scary time, an unknown time, or whatever you want to call it. It's nothing we've ever seen before. So yeah, take it day by day. And like you said, I've sort of immersed myself. And one good thing is, when I am on my phone is seeing all the old sort of highlights from games and old Ranger, clips of the good times we've had over the last, 15 years or so with the Rangers sort of sustained success that they had from whatever it was, 2005 to 2015 or whatever it was. Those clips are sort of getting me through at this point. A lot of 1994 Stanley Cup stuff. So, it sort of makes you beyond, we were talking about appreciating, our families, sort of appreciating a lot of the really great times, we had watching the Rangers. And not only am I, remembering those great games, I'm remembering, where I was. I was at my buddy's house and, it was a party or we were at the bar or wherever we were, and you're remembering the sort of, again, the sort of social interaction that we're all sort of missing from our lives right now. So, it brings up all these sort of emotions just watching it, not only just from, the game standpoint and a great overtime winning goal. It's just, me high-fiving and hugging my friends and the pylons we had in the living room or whatever it was, during some of those wins. So, it's those type of things that are, helping get through, this difficult time. And, I was tweeting before I said I would bring this up in the podcast, just watching some of these old things. And, I've definitely, shit on Stahl a whole bunch. But, man, I'm watching all these clips. Him and Girardi are like in every one. I mean, those guys have made more plays and contributed more than actually I think I realized or appreciated sort of at the time. Like every goal, it was like a rebound from a Girardi shot, or it was a goal from Stahl, or it was, overtime, game sevens, this and that. I'm definitely getting more appreciation for some guys. Maybe at the time I didn't appreciate as much. So I find that interesting too. A lot of like Sean Avery stuff. I mean, we all know him as sort of the pest, but man, that guy was good. Like he was better than I remember. I see some of the passes that he made, beyond the Brodeur stuff, but just real good stuff. I mean, that was fun times, Paulie. I mean, we went through that whole sort of 8-year span where there was no playoffs and it was just god awful Rangers. Guys, I definitely am getting more, appreciation for it. Ryan Callahan. Man, he was good, just that all around player. And, look, the trade for St. Louis had to have been done and it really worked out. And you sort of forget, what Callahan brought to the table. But man, he was such a good player. He was physical. He had great hands and, Dubinsky and Anisimov and those guys. I just love those teams again. It just puts a smile on my face. And, again, just more of appreciation of that sort of time that we went through and the building of that team to, Eastern Conference champions and the Stanley Cup run and, Tortorella. I mean, I saw some clips again. Guy Fitz, I got to learn this guy's name. I don't know. Fitz on Twitter, he's showing a lot of the 24/7 stuff from HBO, and Torts was gold, man. He was amazing. All the locker room stuff that they showed. He was, you just miss him. You miss that time. You miss those teams. It's just, that stuff again, I'm appreciating my family more. You just appreciate those good times that you have with the Rangers and makes me even more excited. Once we get going again, what this rebuild that they're going through is going to eventually bring. It's going to bring those games again, those just great times. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully they'll come back, buddy. Hopefully, man. Do you miss Rafael Diaz? Do you miss Kevin Klein? Do you miss Brandon Mashintier? Do you miss those guys?
I miss them like you wouldn't believe right now. I would love a little Mashinter action right now. He's my guy. He is my guy. I would do anything to watch a game with him in it right now. But
I'll tell you what, man, it was. We want to stick on this team here, too. I mean, that year and, obviously Torts building that thing up and Vigneault taking over. And then obviously the run to the Cup, man. And I'm just kind of, Brad Richards, man. When I always loved Dominic Moore, too. He was a heart and soul guy. And these were all the guys I couldn't remember on the last show or the 2 shows ago from this roster. But
you've watched enough clips, I'm sure, over the last week or so to remember everybody's name now because that's all we got.
Yeah, I mean, that year getting to the Cup Finals, can you think back to that season? Because I don't – look, I'll be the first one to admit I pretty much didn't think the Rangers were going to get there. And obviously the playoffs were a struggle, and then it was magical, and they get there and everything else. And, I had felt – I had just seen that they were, especially in the Tampa series or whatever, and the scoring issues and stuff. And the Kings were just so good. I felt, hey, the Kings were going to, sweep them and run them out. So and what I'm trying to admit here is, as fun as that team was, and the characters and the run and the season, there was just still something for me. And I'm admitting this here to everybody, all the Ranger fan stuff. I just never believed that they were going to get there, and I never believed they were going to win. it's not that I, to say I was watching it. I was like every time they advanced a little further and got closer, and then obviously they got there. It was amazing, to obviously be a part of it, and it was surreal. I think more than anything, the fact that they got back into the Stanley Cup Finals, but there was still just something that never really put it over the hump. Maybe I don't know where I was in time back then as far as where I was personally or anything else, but all I can say is like the team that we're watching now, and obviously we're doing a podcast for it and everything else and following the new team, but there's a different, I feel a different more connection obviously to this team now because I'm more involved with it, and I was doing hockey stuff back then, radio and everything else, but not as in depth. But that team for me, like I said, I wasn't emotionally invested into it. There was just, I had this kind of chip on my shoulder, and I think that was more than less that I was kind of, really deep down inside as a fan, as a Ranger fan, didn't want my heart broken again, and at the same time, as a hockey guy, just really impressed with how they kind of moved on. But that season and that run, and I think I was kind of also, there's no doubt that I was also really, I was angry at the conference finals too with Torts and getting close there. There was something like there was a big drop down for me when Torts was let go, and I get it at the time. It was time for him to move on. The shelf life here with the team had happened, but I loved Torts, and there was something amazing about those teams back then, the players and how he did it and everything. And then losing to the Devils was just like, it was just crushing and everything else. But anyway, I'm rambling on here a little bit. My original question is what do you remember about that year they went to the Cup, from just the early part of it, and then how you felt there at the end?
Well, I mean, they weren't a great team. I mean, going into the new year, I don't think anybody thought they were sort of an underachieving team that year. If I remember, I mean, they might have been like a 500 team come January. I don't really think anybody had any thoughts of sort of grandeur with that team, in the middle of the season, but I think you had a lot of really good players on the team. I mean, you're dealing with Nash and obviously Zuccarello. You had the Stadium Series that year. I'm pretty sure that was the year they had the Stadium Series against where they played at Yankee Stadium. So you had that,
yep.
Right? Yeah. So I actually went to the Islander game at the Carcillo. Had the goal in that game. They win that game 1-0 or 2-1 or whatever it was. It was a low scoring game.
Yeah.
So still you had a lot of the sort of holdover guys, from the Torts team that went to the conference finals, and for me that year was sort of you had the great line, the Brassard, Pouliot, Zuccarello line, which was just like a dominant line. Pouliot was having, his just a career year. Brassard, was coming into his own, and obviously Zuccarello as well. You sort of saw that line sort of grow up together. And then they made the trade. I mean, that was, there was a lot of sort of emotion involved with that, the St. Louis Callahan trade.
Yeah. It was epic.
It was. And, you hated to see a guy like Callahan go, but there was a lot of sort of forward thinking with that. A lot of the times when you're in the middle
of the original start of the rebuild right there. Boom.
You know what it was? I mean, the Rangers obviously have made it, and we've discussed this on the show, a lot of mistakes at the time. Look, when you're in that period of sustained success, you make a lot of immediate need sort of moves, and they actually, for some, I can't believe it, realized that Callahan, you couldn't give him a long-term contract because the way he played, you knew he was going to break down. You knew he only had a couple of years left. You weren't going to give him, he was going into free agency at the end of the year. So, you couldn't give a guy like that a long-term contract. Unfortunately, they didn't learn their lesson where they ended up still giving contracts to Girardi and Stahl, and it sort of blew up in their face. But, they made the right move there where they got rid of him. They were able to bring in a St. Louis, and the rest is history, where they obviously used the emotion of what happened with St. Louis' mom and the Mother's Day goal. And, all that, which sort of catapulted them into, the Stanley Cup Finals. But, that was just a real sort of emotional run in the playoffs. And, that trade, they were playing well, I think, going into that trade. But I don't think anybody had any visions of them getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. But,